Hi everyone and welcome back to the Chile Full Guide. I have been living in Chile for almost 3 years now, so I do have some idea about the country, even though all the protests of 2019 and the COVID situation in 2020, 21 and now in 22 have limited my access to the country itself. I still manage to live quite fully here. So I do have some opinion about pluses and minuses of the country and of living in Chile in general. So if you or maybe your friends or relatives want to move to Chile, here's what they should consider. Let's start with the minuses so that we can finish with something positive. The biggest minus for me is that I did not expect Chile to be that expensive. Usually when you're coming to the so-called third world countries or even like the Latin America in general, you don't expect it to be expensive. So moving here from Russia was a bit of a shock because here, for example, I'm paying for the utilities in my apartment 10 times more than I paid in Russia. That is just crazy. And overall, like going to the supermarket, buying even the sportswear that my husband loves so much, he had to buy Nikes in Russia and bring them here because it was so much cheaper. Even the day-to-day basics, like riding in the metro, it is cheaper in Russia than here. Like here, to get a one-time metro pass, you need to pay 800 pesos. Trust me, that's quite a lot. Obviously, it really depends how you look on it. Like there are a lot of people who come here from the countries where life is even more expensive, like most of the European countries. So they come here and, oh, it's good. But to be honest, it's too expensive for the result you get. Like I'm paying here in the apartment 10 times more than I used to pay, but here it is extremely hot in summer, extremely cold in winter. I mean, like 13 degrees inside the apartment. And in Russia, I had like 25 degrees inside my apartment, paying 10 times less. So yeah, for the result, for the quality that you get, I think it's too expensive. Also consider this. The average salary here is 350,000 peso. The average rent here is 300 pesos. So one person living on the average salary, not even in the minimum one, cannot afford to rent an apartment. No wonder so many Chileans live with their parents until they're like 30 years old, you know? Another minus for me, which is a pretty huge one, are homeless people. As I have already mentioned in one of my videos before, most of the homeless people are homeless here by choice, not by the necessity. So most of them just think that like, oh, why would I work if I can get everything for free? Why to rent an apartment if I can live in a tent, you know? And in a country where you have like 9 months a year of very good weather and nice people who give you food, you really don't have to like try that hard. So they just don't. I don't mind them living in tent wherever they want, but the problems are that they completely deny cleanness. So if you go past them, you will see that they don't even have normal toilets, like they do it just there in the tents or outside of the tent. If we are lucky, they have a lot of rats there. Like they wash their clothes and themselves in the public fountains. So it can be like that you come to a nice neighborhood, you come to a park with your child, you want to enjoy the view, you want to enjoy the fountains, and there are like people who take a shower there. Not a nice thing. And another thing about these homeless people is that they don't want to work, obviously. They want to rob. So they get into the groups, in the gangs, and they rob people in the parks. I have been ambushed by homeless people while I was running in the morning in the park. And luckily I was able to escape, but it's not something uncommon here. Actually, when I shared it on my social media, because it happened like 2 years after I lived in Chile, this happened to me for the first time, that somebody actually wanted to rob me on gunpoint. They said, oh, it took you 2 years to get this. Like, I have already been robbed like 10 or 20 times living here just a few months. And I'm like, that is not okay. With this, we are going to our next minus about Chile is the safety. Like, it's really not safe in 90% of the neighborhoods. Even in the city center, you know, if you're going in the city center, you know, the museums, Plaza de Armas, like being the main square of the city, it's not safe. Like, I wouldn't dare to go inside the square. I always go only outside of it. It's not safe, meaning you cannot take out your phone in public, you cannot take out your money in public, because people are gonna just steal it and you'll never get it. People steal cars, sometimes with people inside it, so you get like these gangs that just ambush the whole family in the car, they put the guns on them, make everyone go out, and they hijack a car. Like, there are neighborhoods, while I'm exploring still Santiago, because, you know, it's a big city and I want to know every single part of it, but there were some neighborhoods where I went out of the metro, I looked around, and I said, nope, and turned back. Just because of this feeling that it was extremely unsafe to even walk there. Especially as a person with a little bit lighter skin and hair color. Too much attention. Also, you might have heard that now there are a lot of issues with the Mapuche who live in south of Chile, so they even have the military there. So yeah, like, people are saying that right now in this current moment, it's the most unstable, the most unsafe situation throughout the whole history of Chile, like after they started to have presidents. You can also notice it on some of my videos that I'm taking about like the squares or parks in Santiago, because some of them, like all of my videos, I'm taking on GoPro. Why? Because phone is too big and it gets a lot of attention when I take it out, so I don't feel safe taking it out. So I bought a GoPro. I have it like hidden like this in my hand, and sometimes when the environment is really not safe, like there are a lot of, you know, suspicious people, then I have my GoPro like here, very low, very hidden, so that they cannot even see it. So sometimes on the videos you can notice it, that like all of a sudden from here, from like kind of high level, the image is going like very low. That's because I'm trying to hide it, you know. Again, I'm not saying that all Chile is unsafe. There are neighborhoods that are extremely safe, like here in Santiago, if you go live in Las Condes, very safe. It really reminds me of Europe there, but it's extremely, extremely expensive. So there, like the same apartment that I rent here is going to be like 4 or 5 times more. Another minus, yeah, I do have a lot, living here 3 years. So another minus is that there are a lot of immigrants. As you might heard, yeah, speaking by an immigrant, but the difference is that there are, let's say, educated immigrants that come here by job offers. So they have a job, they have a house. Yes, they are quite wealthy. And there are immigrants that come here because there are no job opportunities in their countries, or there is a war, or there is no food. So they come from all over the Latin America. They come to Chile. But so most of them don't have documents, don't have jobs. Obviously, you cannot have a job without a document. So it's kind of a vicious cycle. You cannot get a house without having a job, which you can get without the documents. So basically, a lot of them turn to the criminal path, and most of them start building housing illegally. You might have seen the reel that I posted on my Instagram page about the houses next to the road, like where you go from one commune to another in Santiago. There is like a huge road, and and you have houses on both sides of it that are built completely illegally. And the government is not doing anything, not with the immigrants, not to help them, not with the housing. Another thing, again, about the immigrants, is that a lot of the document processes, they take a very long time. So, for example, I applied for my visa. That will last 1 year. I applied it in August, and I received my visa only in January. Then, because you cannot apply for the Chilean identification without having a visa, so then I applied for my identification, and I got it in May. Then I had left like 2 more months to enjoy my new visa and my identification before they expire. Another thing is the very big centralization. If you will notice, like, everything is Santiago, Santiago, Santiago. There are so many people in Santiago. There is so much pollution in Santiago. Again, you can see it in one of my reels when we went on the Cerro El Carbón. You can see the difference between the air, like, above the city and outside of it. Like, it's really brown. It was a sunny weather, but the air is so dirty that it's literally brown. And if you want to live like in other cities, in other parts of Chile, there are a lot of chances that you will not be able to find a place to rent or a decent job or a decent education for your kids. So everybody from every single province, they're like, Santiago, Santiago, Santiago. Everything is in Santiago. Like, good jobs are in Santiago, good housing in Santiago, money opportunities in Santiago, Everybody is coming to Santiago. And the problem inside Santiago is that you have a huge difference in the society. Like, you have a very poor ones and you have the extremely wealthy ones. And you can see it even in the way the neighborhoods are built. So the neighborhoods are called here communes. And if you go to the Commune Las Condes, even the streets and the street lighting are different than, for example, the Commune Maipú. So the difference is drastic. The way people live in the rich communes is so different from everybody else. You can literally think that this is another world. And if you work with people from the rich communes, you will notice the way they talk and the way they treat other people. Us normal commoners. That is just crazy. Like, honestly, I've never seen something like that in my life. And plus, most of them, they have like nannies and governors. So they're like 35, never washed the dish in their life. So, yeah. Honestly, I have never thought I will meet something like that in my life, because 21st century, but it exists very well here in Chile. And finally, my last minus. I'm sorry to be so negative, but my last minus is the medicine and education. The problem is in their level and in their price. Like, free healthcare, free education here, they are very poor. Like, the level is really bad. The more you pay, the better you get. And the problem with that is that my child is smart and everything. If they don't get a scholarship, I will have to pay a lot of money for their education, starting from the kindergarten. The average price of the kindergarten per month is more than the average salary. How it still exists, I don't know. But yeah. And then starting from all the kindergarten, you have to pay till they graduate university, which can be at 27. So imagine you have like 25 years of paying for your child's education. And for all this price, you will not even get like a decent one. You will get something like mediocre, or if you're lucky with a professor, then yeah, you can have a good one. Okay, so now let's shake off all the negativity and go to the pluses. What is good about living in Chile? First things first, if you have a lot of money, you can live here like a king. I mean, you can have a huge apartment with a view to the ocean, a swimming pool, some room service, even if you're in an apartment, and all this stuff. Pretty cool, I must say. At least based on the pictures and stories. Yeah. Nature. Nature is one of the biggest pluses for me in Chile because it's so amazing. Like Chile, I guess, is the country that has like the most natural parks in the world, and they keep adding them because they really, really, really want to preserve the nature that they have. And you can really like see the variety of nature, which is also super fun because you're in the same country, but you go from the desert to Antarctica. You can have places where there is like one rain in a year, or you can have places where it's raining all day long, every single day of the year. You can have mountains, oceans, rivers, lakes, the flowers in the desert. Amazingly beautiful. And the variety of the animals they have, you know, even inside the city, even inside the Santiago, you have so many different birds. I've never seen so many in my life. Another thing, as I said, the mountains. Who doesn't love mountains? They are so beautiful. Like you can see right now it's winter and you can see these beautiful mountains full of snow almost from any point of Santiago. You know, because the city is like surrounded by mountains. But yeah, it's so beautiful. You can go to the mountains, you can go to the hills, do the hiking. Like if you love hiking, one of the best countries for you. Another thing connected to the nature is parks. There are a lot of parks in the city. Obviously, yeah, depends on the neighborhood again, but there are a whole lot of parks. Like you can go half an hour from Santiago and you get to the almost untouched nature. Beautiful, amazing, and you have like a park where you need to have the whole day to go through it. The city is quite bike friendly. There are a lot of bike lanes here. Like we have traveled by bike a couple of weekends and I didn't feel the pressure of the cars being next to me. You know, it was pretty safe, I must say. But yeah, of course, you need to select the path where you're going for it to have a bike lane. There is the freedom of speech and the possibility of change, which I never felt in Russia, to be honest. Like, for example, right now, did you see the president they have right now, the Boric? There is a very vivid example of the possibility of change. I mean, he's the youngest president ever, and right now they are writing a new constitution. And have you seen how many riots they have, how many protests they have? Most of the protests are welcomed by the police even. I mean, not the protests that happened in 2019, but the protests that are happening right now. Yeah, you can go out on the street, say whatever you want to say, and you will be fine. I mean, honestly, again, the comparison with my country. You go in Russia with a blank piece of paper. Like, honestly, I will go outside, I will put the blank piece of paper like this, and I will be arrested. Very cool. Here, no. Another thing is that the entrance for foreigners, it's quite simple in comparison to other countries. Like, you don't need to have a language exam, not for a single visa. Obviously, you will not understand what they say when you apply for it, but you don't need any certificate to prove that you know Spanish. And in most of the cases, you can just come to the country, you know, at least as a tourist with no visa for most of the countries. And another thing that might make you feel like home is that there are a lot of foreign companies here and immigrants from North Americas and the European countries. So you'll never feel alone. You always have these communities, like we have the community of Russian people, there are communities of French people, of German people, you know. So you will not have any issues with that, like you will not feel homesick. You can always find even the company from your own country that works here and like work for them maybe, I don't know, and be almost like home, but in a different country. So that's pretty cool. These are all the pluses that I have. Again, if you have any more minuses or pluses that you want to add, write me in the comments, please. And thank you so much for watching. I really hope it was helpful, and I'll see you next time.